First of all, thank you. Thank you, Reb Pitzel. Thank you, Reb Sperber. Thank you, my fellow students as well, for making this happen. I also want to thank another Beit Midrash that I spent a good many years in, Sulam Yaakov, Rav Aaron Leibowitz, Rav Daniel Cohen, who I've learned much from along the way. My parents, who are making a bagel breakfast on Friday in Connecticut, they're also here, and my friends along the way, and of course my wife, who encouraged me to do this in the first place, and handled bedtime every Wednesday night for the year, which is not a small thing. It's better. I want to say that the past 2 weeks for me have been particularly difficult. They've really occasioned a dramatic self-doubt that came along with this transition. Real questions of am I equal to this? And I say this A, because it's true, and B, because this is a room full of leaders and teachers, and I feel that these are things that we all wrestle with in one way or another and should be speaking about. And that's part of our role. I want to talk a little bit about technology, but first I want to talk about the throat, tzavar. So, tzavar shows up about 30 times in Tanakh. The word tzavar shows up about 30 times in Tanakh. And it always shows up in one of two contexts. It's either in a context of dominion, the collar around the throat, the boot on the throat, or it's in the context of radical care and compassion. When we see Yosef falling on Binyamin's throat and Yosef falling on his father Yaakov's throat. And the commonality between domination on the one side and compassion on the other side is vulnerability. The question is, in the face of vulnerability, what do we do? There's something unusual that when this word comes up, it's almost always in the singular, and sometimes, strangely, in the plural. The same way in Hebrew panim is in the plural, so too we have tzivarei. We have that it's the throats of, and it comes up in the plural when it's in the context of compassion. Certainly in Torah. So when Rivka dresses Yaakov's naked throat, and when Yosef falls on his brother's throat, and when Yosef falls on his father's, it's always in the plural. And when it's talking about dominion, when it's the collar on the throat and the boot on the throat, it's in the singular. So this is my invitation to drush. And I think it's authentic that when faced with someone else's vulnerability, we have an option. If all I see is their vulnerability, if I look at you and all I see is your vulnerability, then I'm already on the path towards dominion. And if I look at you and I experience, along with your vulnerability, my own vulnerability, then I'm on the road towards compassion. The Talmud makes a distinction between Talmidei Chachamim of Bavel and Talmidei Chachamim of Eretz Yisrael. The Talmidei Chachamim of Bavel were mechablim behalacha. They were injuring each other in halakha or tying each other up perhaps in halakha. Whereas Talmidei Chachamim Eretz Yisrael were ne'imim b'halakha. I think that perhaps that's the same difference. The same difference? That's not English, is it? No. It's the same distinction, or perhaps the same dynamic happening, that halakha could be a tool for dominion, or it could be a tool for compassion and kindness. And I think it's not an accident that it's the throat that we're talking about, because it's not an abstract concept. It's not the word savar, but it's this thing that we all have. And getting the Torah out of the head and past the throat involves being vulnerable, involves being very present, involves being willing to risk and be changed. So, technology. Everyone's thinking, how's he going to make this transition? I have pictures that my parents took of me when I was 4 years old, sitting in front of a computer, which was by now a good 3.5 decades ago, I suppose. Sitting in front of a computer, so I'm familiar. And I spend my time with a great, wonderful project called Safaria, bringing the Beit Midrash online in a free and open way. And it's all, computers are excellent at data, at analysis, at information, at communication, at what goes on basically in the head. And there's a challenge, particularly in our generation, and I feel personally particularly strongly, of getting it past the throat. Especially since I spend all day staring at the computer and typing code into it. That along with the technology of data and information and the words written on the page, there's the technique of vulnerability, of presence, of compassion, of self-compassion. So I was asked to speak about what I'd be doing with smikha. So that's the best I can figure out at this point, that I'll be involved in technology, I'll be involved in data and analysis, and with God's help I'll be involved in the technology of compassion, vulnerability. Thank you.